this tutorial, I will show you how to create a simple model of the hourly unit production cost for a typical business structure using the Cogintech Digital Twin Builder. This model can be easily adapted to the specifics of your business, and by knowing your real-time unit cost, it can help boost the process efficiency, as through altering and tracking various inputs and outputs, you will be able to reduce the unit cost to its minimal value. Firstly, if you have not done so already, you must make an account. To do this, click on the Digital Twin Builder sign up at the top right-hand corner of the website, which will take you to the registration menu. Here you can fill in your details. I already have an account, so I will log in. After the login page, we arrive at the main menu where there's a button to create a new project and a list of projects that have been recently used. We want to create a new project, so I will press the button and name my project Hourly Unit Cost. On the left, we see the library of object classes. Objects are made by simply dragging and dropping the chosen one with your mouse from the library to the main diagram. You can then move them by dragging the top left-hand corner. On the right of the object, there is also a delete button. For this model, let's suppose we know how much product we must produce. So this set amount of product will then dictate the cost, the rate of raw materials, the production rate, and therefore our unit cost and eventually profit. To start, I will add an object with the class input. To rename this input and alter further parameters, simply double-click on it for many of its characteristics to appear on the right side of the screen. We have the ID, its name, which we will rename product, its object class, which if necessary we could change here, object type, which is not fully activated but in the future will be available to group objects together. There is also a possibility to add a description for the object if required. Lower down we see a description of the parameters defining our object. There are three main parameters: price, rate, and cost. To the right of these parameters, the highlighted ticks under the S column indicate that the parameters are visible under the object on the main screen. By default they are visible, but can be removed if necessary. Lower down there is an option to add more parameters, but in this case we are only interested in the main three. Let's set an arbitrary value for the price and rate. Let's say 72 and 670, for example. However, further down we may want to alter the rate of production, so we must make this parameter variable. To do this, we need to alter its control type from being a single value to a slider. We do so here. The slider has three main parameters: a minimal value, a maximum value, and the value of the step. We will say it will vary from 0 to 1,000 with a step of say 10. Now we can alter this rate quickly on the main diagram with the use of the slider. Our third parameter will be income, so let's rename the cost parameter to income. For this parameter, we want to create a formula that will calculate the product of the price and rate. Lower down, we will see a button titled f of x. This will open up a formula dialog. Here we can choose the appropriate parameters to be part of our formula. Let's choose the class input, the object product, and the parameter price, which we will add to the formula using the add button. We know this will be multiplied by the rate, so I will add the rate in using the same method after pressing the asterisk on my keyboard. And now pressing OK, we get a value for the income, which is the product of the price and the rate. Now that we have established the rate at which our product will be produced, we can now determine the amount of raw materials needed to facilitate this rate of production. So I will now create 4 input-output objects, and using the same method which I have demonstrated for the product object, I will determine their rates and costs. Okay, you can now see that I have added 4 input-output objects: main raw material, water, electricity for production, and electricity for heating. I have also added another primary input, heating, which dictates the parameters for the electricity for heat object. I have also connected these objects using arrows. I have done this by clicking on the top right-hand corner of one object, and then clicking on its associated object. If necessary, it is possible to delete an unwanted arrow by simply using the delete key on your keyboard. The value of the parameters in the formulas employed for each of these objects will be specific to your business model and will be dictated by the quantity needed to maintain the rate of production of the product we have initially established. To better visualize the cost of these resources, let's create two more input-output objects that will tally up the total raw material costs and the energy costs. Double-clicking on the first one, for example, I will rename it Total Raw Cost. Deselect the price and rate, and then in the cost window, I will open up the formula dialog. Here I will sum the cost of the main raw material with the cost of the water. I will do something similar now with the other input-output objects to calculate the total energy expenditure. Okay, as you can see, I now have the energy expenditure clearly visible, and I have also added in the process object that models our production. The rate is dependent on the rate of the product, and the hourly cost is the sum of the raw and energy costs, as you can see here. I will now go ahead and complete this model and then explain each new object in turn. Firstly, as well as the costs from the raw materials and energy, we will have fixed costs that aren't affected by the rate of product production, which I have outlined in the object monthly constant cost. The hourly cost is simply all the fixed monthly costs, salary, rent, and other, divided by the working hours, as you can see in this formula. This then, along with the production, are inputs into the final total costs, where we have our hourly cost, which is the sum of the constant hourly costs summed with the variable costs that enter the production. From this then we determine our final unit cost, which is the hourly cost divided by the amount of product produced. We also have the waste, which is again dependent on the rate of the product. Finally, we have our profit, which summarizes the costs and sales of this model. Okay, I hope this tutorial has been useful in showing you how to calculate your unit cost as a function of the main process parameters and financial figures in a typical business, and so therefore can be applied to your business. Thank you for watching.